Imagine sitting on a plane, trying to keep your little girl calm as she clutches her stuffed bunny. You're just a tired single dad, happy you finally managed to afford this trip together. Then suddenly, an announcement crackles over the intercom. The captain's voice trembles. If there's any fighter pilot on board, please, we need you in the cockpit immediately. And in that moment, seat 17E stopped being just another number. Chapter 1, The Single Dad in 17E. Daniel Cole wasn't supposed to be anyone special that morning. At least, not in the eyes of the strangers around him. To them, he was just another weary man on a crowded flight from Dallas to New York, struggling to keep his 6-year-old daughter, Emily, entertained. Emily's legs swung restlessly against the seat, her blonde curls bouncing as she giggled at the cartoon on her tablet. "Daddy, can we get pancakes when we land?" she asked, hugging her stuffed bunny closer. "Pancakes it is," Daniel smiled, though behind that smile was exhaustion. Raising her alone since his wife passed away had turned his life upside down. Every day was a balancing act between being her rock and fighting the emptiness he carried inside. The flight attendants bustled down the aisle, offering drinks. The air smelled faintly of reheated coffee and plastic trays. Nothing seemed unusual, until it did. At first, it was subtle. The plane jolted harder than turbulence should have caused. A murmur of concern rippled through the passengers. Then came the announcement. The captain's voice broke through the intercom, trembling with something Daniel hadn't heard in years: fear. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're experiencing a serious technical malfunction with our navigation system. We've attempted to correct it, but," the captain paused, his breath audible through the speakers. "If there is any fighter pilot on board, please make yourself known to the crew immediately." The cabin froze. Passengers exchanged wide-eyed glances. Someone gasped. A mother hugged her toddler tighter. Emily looked up at her father, confusion clouding her bright eyes. "Daddy, what's wrong? Why's he scared?" Daniel's throat tightened. He hadn't expected this, not here, not now. He wasn't just a single dad in 17E. He was Major Daniel Cole, retired United States Air Force fighter pilot. His hands shook as he pressed them together, staring at the floor. He hadn't been in a cockpit for nearly 7 years. Not since the mission that changed everything. Not since the crash that left him with scars, both on his body and his soul. But then he heard the whisper of panic spreading through the cabin. A baby crying. A man muttering prayers. And Emily's small, trembling voice. "Daddy, are we going to be okay?" And in that instant, he knew. He couldn't stay seated. Not while lives were on the line. Daniel squeezed Emily's hand. "Stay here with Bunny, okay? Daddy's got to help." She blinked at him, wide-eyed but trusting. "Because you're a hero?" He swallowed hard. "Because I'm your dad." With that, Daniel stood, his heart pounding like the roar of engines, and walked down the aisle. Chapter 2, The Cockpit. The flight attendant's eyes widened when Daniel whispered, "I'm a retired fighter pilot." She nodded quickly, guiding him to the cockpit. The murmurs of passengers trailed after him like a tide of desperate hope. Inside, the captain's hands trembled over the controls. Warning lights flashed like angry eyes. The co-pilot's face was pale, sweat dripping down his forehead. "Sir, who are you?" the captain demanded. "Major Daniel Cole, USAF, retired," Daniel answered, steadying his voice. The captain let out a breath of relief. "Thank God. Our autopilot's gone. Nav systems corrupted. I've never seen anything like this. We can't keep her steady." Daniel slid into the co-pilot's seat, his hands instinctively finding the controls. Memories flooded back, the sound of jet engines, the feeling of absolute responsibility in the air. He hadn't realized how much he missed it, or how much it terrified him to be back. The plane bucked violently, screams echoing from the cabin. Daniel's voice was calm, controlled, the way it had been in combat. "All right. We're going to stabilize her. I'll need manual override." The captain nodded, handing over control. Outside the window, storm clouds gathered like a wall of shadows. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the terror written on every passenger's face as they peeked through the windows. "Altitude dropping," Daniel muttered. "We've got maybe 15 minutes before we're in real trouble." He steadied his breath, hands firm on the controls. The years melted away. His instincts came alive. He wasn't a broken man anymore. He was a pilot again. Then he heard it, faint at first, then louder. A voice from the cabin intercom. "Daddy?" Emily's voice. Somehow, the attendant had let her through. Her little voice carried like a prayer. "You can do it. You always fix things. Please, come back to me." His chest ached. His vision blurred. But in that moment, he wasn't afraid anymore. The storm raged, the alarms screamed, but Daniel's hands were steady. For Emily. For every soul on board. Minutes stretched into eternity, but finally, the turbulence eased. The lights stabilized. The nose of the aircraft lifted. Cheers erupted from the cabin as the plane leveled. The captain exhaled, his face wet with relief. "You just saved over 200 lives," the captain whispered. Daniel shook his head softly. "No. I just kept a promise to my daughter." When the plane finally landed, applause thundered through the cabin. Strangers cried, hugged, clapped until their hands were raw. And Emily, tears streaming down her cheeks, ran into her father's arms the moment he stepped out of the cockpit. "I knew you'd come back," she whispered against his chest. Daniel kissed the top of her head, his voice breaking. "I'll always come back to you." Sometimes, the heroes we overlook, the quiet ones sitting in seat 17E, the single parents just trying to hold their world together, are the ones who save us all when everything falls apart. And for Daniel Cole, being a fighter pilot again wasn't about glory. It was about love. About showing his daughter that even broken people can rise when the world needs them most.